Um, Perfect. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful summer and you're all healthy. It's now 7:04, and I'm calling the September meeting of Bronx Community Board 8 to order. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura Spalter. I'm chair of Bronx Community Board 8. Warm welcome to everyone who's here tonight. As always, we start with our public gallery session, and we have one speaker tonight, Mary Seri, to speak on the flooding at 2727 Palisade Avenue. Mary, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Sierra,
Trying to hunt him down. Yeah. Right, Robin.
Okay, Mary, you sent in a video.
yes, I did.
Okay, Kira, are we good for that?
She's sharing if it.
Yep.
Okay.
You just have to hit play.
And while the video is running, Mary will be able to speak. Okay, so we're ready when you're ready, Mary.
Thank you very much. My name is Mary Seri. I'm a 20+ year resident of 2727 Palisade Avenue. I am a team member along with my husband, Robert Harrington, of the Traffic and Transportation Working Committee for the last 2 years. I am here today to speak about the flooding caused by the flawed and ill-conceived DOT project at Palisade and Cape Park Street. DOT is responsible for the flooding at our building and was repeatedly warned by our working committee this would happen. They knew this would happen and they refused to fix it. The committee was formed in a direct reaction to this project. Our focus was always to work with Bronx DOT Novardo Lopez. Our good faith attempts to provide an alternate solution were ignored. At every meeting with DOT rather, the water runoff was always voiced as a primary concern. Again, this issue was always ignored or dismissed. A full proposal with renderings were presented to DOT and once again, totally ignored. Stonewalled by DOT, delays in responding by DOT, ignoring the community and local officials have led to 2 years of failure by Bronx DOT to fix this flawed project. Approximately 80 to 90 members of the community and residents of this building attended last night's meeting with the expectation of voicing their frustration directly to Bronx DOT Commissioner Lopez. A regular attendee of CB8 meetings, last night he was conspicuously absent. Just another example of this we have experienced over the last 2 years. DOT must immediately restore the sidewalks to their previous configuration, where existing catch basins have been proven to prevent flooding to our building. Future storms will put 2727 Palisade at serious risk, and therefore our working committee, along with a majority of the residents, would oppose any halfway measures as being insufficient to protect us. The majority of the residents last night were very disappointed that new committee chair Deb Travis chose to ignore their collective voice, as well as the recommendation of the working committee to have DOT restore the sidewalks to their previous configuration. The working group's recommendations and suggestions are no longer theoretical in nature. 2727 Palisade is at a crisis point. There's no doubt that another storm is coming. The health, safety, and financial stability of our property is at risk. DOT created this situation. It's time for DOT to admit their mistake and eliminate the current sidewalks so our building is not flooded again. And that time is now. We expect the community board to represent the position of residents, which is to restore the intersection. Chair Spatler, will you and the other board members commit tonight to advocate for restoration?
Thank you, Mary. There will be a discussion, of course, during TNT. I will have a statement. I'm sure there will be a robust discussion, and thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Mary. Let's see now. Next on our agenda, report from the Bronx Borough President's Office. Here is Ish here.
He was here before. Yes, he is.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It's Ish Gonzalez from the Bronx Borough President's Office. I hope you guys had a beautiful and safe summer. Just run through some quick announcements that I have here. I would like to welcome, I see some new faces, so I would like to welcome the new community board members, and I hope you guys enjoy. Additionally, the Borough President's report, as usual, was sent over to the board office, and it will be sent out tomorrow to all of the board members. Additionally, on the Borough President's website, there are resources for all of those people that were affected by the Hurricane Ida. So if you have any questions or need to submit any paperwork or anything of that sort, you can go over to our website, and there's links for the Ida storm damage and the resources for there. Additionally, the Borough President was happy to provide letters of support for the relocation of the CB8 office and the Ridgewood Savings Bank, in which we worked with Nick Fazio, and we would like to thank Nick for being so proactive and really committed to that cause. As always, if you guys have any questions or concerns, you can always feel free to reach out to me. I'll be here to the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ish. And you will get calls on how to put in claims for damages from Hurricane Ida, to be sure.
Perfect.
Now I'd like to call Assemblyman Dinowitz has a conflict for tonight, and he'd like to say a few words. Assemblyman, I think you're here. So
Thank you.
But before you say a word, you have to allow me to thank you for attaching the bill to the special section 2 weeks ago that is allowing us to continue to Zoom, to put that in for the waiver to the open meetings law. So a big thank you for you. I know you sponsored it in the assembly. So.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. And I actually had mixed feelings because I really was looking forward to meeting all of you in person. And I know there are a number of new members, and I really did want to meet everybody, but this had to be done. So yes, the law we passed, which was my legislation, allows you to meet at least through January 15th by Zoom. And I think that's important, especially given the fact that the COVID rates have not abated. And we know that's 100% due to the people who refuse to get vaccinated. So if you're on this call and you haven't gotten vaccinated, please get vaccinated. I'll just leave it at that. Ms. Siri, I just want to thank you for coming to the board to talk about Palisade Avenue. I am really unhappy, to say the least, as far as what's happened. When this proposal first came up, I don't know, 3 years ago, I was not among those who supported it. Along with another proposal at the same time. I thought it was a big mistake, and I think the people who raised the issues concerning drainage were proven right, unfortunately. So I think DOT really has to correct a terrible error that was made, and they should not wait. You know, we don't get 8-inch rainfalls every day, but we never got 8-inch rainfalls ever before. So I think we have to understand that things are different now, and we have to be prepared. And one thing we should not be doing is making it easier for buildings like High Point to be flooded. So the situation needs to be corrected. I'm going to try to go through this very quickly because I know you're pressed for time. Flu shots, free flu shots. Councilmember Eric Dinowitz and myself are sponsoring at the Riverdale Y next Friday, a week from Friday, September 24th from 10 to 1. Please come. We don't want anybody with the flu. We don't want anybody getting sick for anything. We don't want sick. The eviction and foreclosure moratorium, this was legislation that I sponsored back last December 28th. Again, we extended it on May 3rd, and then on September 1st. And this is meant to keep people in their homes. We don't want people made homeless ever, but certainly not during a pandemic. So in all my years of sponsoring legislation, and it's a bunch of years, I believe that this bill has really, in a positive way, impacted more people than anything else. We've been in extraordinary circumstances for the past year and a half, and we had to react appropriately. So this was kind of where I focused a lot of my energy on protecting tenants. In the Senate, the lead sponsor was Assemblyman Brian Kavanaugh from Manhattan, and we got it done. Part of that bill had the ability for you to meet on Zoom, of course, but this is a big success, what's happened. And in conjunction with that, we passed in the budget what's known as the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP, and there is between $2.5 and $3 billion that the state has set aside, largely came down from the federal government, to help people with back rent. If you qualify, if you're a victim of COVID in the economic sense, if you've lost your job, lost income, and you're less than 80% of area median income, you could apply for this program. Tenants don't get the money. The money goes to landlords to help make them whole. We don't want landlords going out of business. And there's provisions for people as high as 120% of AMI to get funding as well. And if you sign up for the program, you get a year where you will not be evicted and will not get a rent increase. So it's really important that people who are eligible apply for this money. And the zip codes throughout the state, which have had the greatest number of applications, happen to be all in the West Bronx. And I think that underlines the tremendous need that we have in the West Bronx. We have a lot of rental housing and a lot of people suffering. So we're all working very hard to try to make sure we get through this crisis, we get through this pandemic without people being put out on the street. I could answer any questions on that at another time. I know I'm trying to be quick. And last but not least, we all are aware of the horrific accident that took place last Tuesday night on Cape Hawk and Johnson, where a local resident.
What you were doing? Oh my God!
Somebody's got to mute themselves, please. Where a local resident, Ms. Ruth Mullen, was killed where a bus ran her over. It was terrible. We held a rally to try to give DOT a push. Community Board 8, Kira was there, Families for Safe Streets, and Council Member Eric Dinowitz. We led the rally. We had a lot of local residents, people who are very passionate about this. No one should have to die because under these circumstances, period. And we hope that DOT will do something. We both have spoken with the commissioner on this. We're going to keep pressing. There are ways to make the intersection safer. That doesn't prevent every accident. Sometimes things just happen, but we want to make sure that everything is done that's possible to prevent this from happening again. And it was just beyond words what happened. So I will stop. I don't know if you want me to answer any questions or if you want to move on, but I appreciate your letting me go out of turn.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a
for
question.
joining.
I have a question.
I don't know whose hand is up.
I have a question.
Excuse me.
My hand has been up.
I see Marty Wolpoff. Marty, go ahead.
Jeff, I want to echo what Laura said about thanking you about the OML. I wrote you a letter.
I
hope you received it.
I did, and I also got something from Florence as well.
Well, okay. 1974, the OML law was passed. I fully support what it stands for. The public should have access to public bodies, but it strikes me in 1974, no one ever heard of Zoom. And I think that Zoom will have proven that the attendance at meetings is greater. I think it will show, especially at a time when we're about to hold our nose and go into congestion parking because you want to protect the environment, that having less cars on the road, going to meetings or wherever can be avoided. And I wrote a couple other reasons why I thought that continuing with Zoom was in the best interest of everyone. And add the fact that I've been recuperating for the last year, and there are many meetings I could not have attended at all if it were not for Zoom.
Yes.
Okay,
Well-
thank you, Marty. I see another hand. Haxley, I'm not sure that's a board member. I have to explain that during community board, full board meetings, only the board members are allowed to speak. So are there any board members who have hands up or question for Assemblyman?
Well, I have a question.
Are you a board member?
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry, we have to move on, but if you could just email your question to Community Board 8, we will certainly put it forward to the Assemblyman.
Well, I've,
I'm sorry, but you don't have the floor. This is the full board protocols. I'm sorry, you're not able to speak right now. I'd like to move on and introduce our.
Thank you, Laura.
Senator
Margaret's-
Senator Gustavo Rivera, who I'm so pleased is here tonight. Senator, are you on?
I am indeed, madam. Good evening.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
Great to see you. And just like Jeff said, we're looking forward to the point where we can do this in person, but I am very happy that we were able to change the law. And I certainly thank the Assembly member for introducing that bill. And I'm glad that we got to give folks the option. So, and I'm glad to be here virtually with you. I'll just give a couple of legislative updates. I mean, obviously one of them, the bill that we passed on the special session, we did a whole bunch of stuff in special session. One of them was related to the eviction moratorium, which is now expanded to the 15th of January. This is to make sure that more folks can apply for ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And I would remind everybody that if you need any help with this, or if you know anybody who you believe might be eligible, or they believe they might be eligible, they should call. They could call my office. I'm sure that both the Assembly member and the council member would offer their offices as well. But we've been helping out a lot of folks to apply. So you can always call my office. You don't have the chat on. I would actually put the number right there, but I'm not that hard to find. But that's one thing that we were able to do: the eviction moratorium, obviously the open meetings law, and that we extended so that we were able to do this today. And we also voted in the Senate. We voted to confirm for the new governor's Cannabis Control Board chair and the office and the executive director of the Office of Cannabis Management. This is so that we can go forward with to making sure that we can have the legal cannabis program can go into effect. And if you notice, I kind of glossed over the fact, and I shouldn't have, that we have a new governor. That is an excellent thing. And the fact that we were able to get these things done is just one of the things that they were able to get done because we have that new governor. So I'm certainly very happy about that. A couple of more things. Certainly, as it relates to ERAP, we've actually been knocking on doors in my district for the last couple of weeks. My staff and myself have been knocking on hundreds of doors. And sometimes folks don't even know that this program exists. Again, this is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. If you're behind on your rent or even on utility payments, which is something that some folks did not know, this program might be for you. And remember that you will be protected for a year. There's actually an eviction protection that is extended for a year when you are applying. So make sure that if you are eligible or know anybody who might be, please direct them to one of our offices so they can apply. Also, we have, and just finally, my office, we are open, but we are still not accepting walk-ins. We're actually having people come in scheduled fashion. You can call my office to arrange an appointment on any sorts of issues that you might have, whether it's housing related, education related, or something related to Hurricane Ida or anything else. You can always reach out to my office. We are here for you. So I will just wrap up there and again, thank you for allowing me to be here this evening and hoping that we can see each other in person soon. But if you have any questions, I'll be here for a while.
Senator, I really want to say I'm looking forward. I know you, Kira, and myself, we have a chat set up in a few days to discuss our budget priorities.
Yes, ma'am.
And, to share that information with you and to collaborate with your office and you. And I'm very, very grateful for that. So looking forward to that chat.
Very much looking forward to that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if there are no, Ed, you have a hand up?
Yeah, I had a question with regards to the eviction moratorium. You mentioned that if you sign up now, it can give you protection for a year. How does that go as far as this latest Supreme Court ruling? Is that something that can cut somebody out from the knees if they apply from this, and if it's overturned via Supreme Court, or is this strictly a state issue, not a federal issue?
So we believe that the law as it currently stands is something that will protect folks. The eviction moratorium that we're talking about would go into effect. It's until January 15th, but the one that I was speaking about was particularly referring to the extra protection that you are given if you are applying for ERAP. That kicks in if you apply for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. That would kick in for a year, and that is why you're in approval, whether the thing is whether you're in the process of it being considered. So it actually provides an extra level of protection. If you're approved, then you obviously the money, as was said earlier by the assembly member, is going to flow to the landlord so that they can be made whole. But it provides that extra layer from you. But we believe that this bill is done in a way where we are going around the way that it was originally what the Supreme Court ultimately found. We believe that this bill actually goes around that and that it's actually constitutional.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further hands, I believe we're awaiting on our commanding officer. So let me move to.
Laura, just before you go on,
Yes.
I believe Council Member Eric Dinowitz is here as well.
Perfect. Yes, I was just going.
Oh,
yes.
sorry.
Yeah. Councilmember Dinowitz, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. I will also be brief because that's, I think 3 minutes, right? I'll try not to even take that much. I'll be very quick. As you know, the budget passed in June, and since that time, we've obviously increased social services significantly, but importantly, I've allocated over $300,000 for cleanup services. So we've done extra basket pickups throughout the week, and of course, Sunday basket pickups. You may see people on the commercial corridors sweeping and taking the bags out of the litter baskets and replacing them. You may see people in the parks pruning, cleaning the bathrooms, taking graffiti away throughout the community. If there are any particular hotspots that you think need cleaning, please reach out to my office and let me know, and we'll direct the services to those areas. What we've also been doing is really encouraging community groups to take ownership and do parks cleanups and community cleanups. We've been advertising all of them. We're happy to send out via email any parks or community cleanup that you want to do. And we can even help if you want to try one and you've never done a parks cleanup. We can help coordinate with parks and get you the supplies for that. So we're looking to, again, over $300,000 and working with the community to get cleaner streets. I have a few there's a few legislative things. Last week, I had education committee where we had the chancellor of DOE schools. Long story short, we are assured that the classrooms are well ventilated, but if you have a concern about your child's safety, you can call 311 and share the 301 complaint number with me, because I was assured that every classroom would have the filters. If they don't have the filters, they will get them. If the schools don't have the PPE, they will get them. That was made very clear to me by the chancellor, so I'm making very clear to you exactly what she said. So please reach out to my office. Tomorrow, my committee, the Committee Civil Service and Labor, which I sit on, will be having a meeting about closing Rikers Island. I plan to talk about that and solitary confinement. I also plan to visit Rikers Island. At the end of the week, the Small Business Committee will be discussing commercial rent regulation. Later in the month, the Veterans Committee, which I chair, will have a hearing about discharge status and upgrading discharge status and changes to the city charter, which help support our veterans. There's been big issues with flooding. I'll say, obviously, on the Deegan, if anyone was down there or saw the pictures, it's horrific. But I've been moving forward with trying to get the daylighting of Tibbetts Brook project to see was gonna say the light of day, but I don't
Eric,
want to sound punny. Just
it's
to make
good
it a
to see you.
reality, doing my
Me,
part
Eric? This is Marvin.
to make that happen. One of the things we talk about is climate change and water conservation. Regarding climate change, I've sponsored legislation that would reduce for new buildings the amount of greenhouse gases that they emit by preventing gas from being burned, essentially. Let's see what else. We're looking to do rain barrel giveaways, other things that help collect and preserve water so they don't end up in our sewer systems, which is a big problem. The issue with 2727 Palisade, I know someone spoke about earlier, where the DOT is supposed to construct, according to their own manual, they are supposed to construct, let's see what it is, curb extensions must be designed so as to maintain drainage of stormwater from the gutter and not cause ponding. Ponding would be a very generous word of what happens. So they did not do that. They are supposed to do that. They did not. They're supposed to do treatments that channel water around or in between the curb and the curb line to channel it to the sewer basins. They did not do that. So we'll be following up with that. I think that's a little over 3 minutes.
Thank you so much,
Sorry.
Councilman. I don't see any hands. Thank you very much for coming. We'll be definitely in touch with you on those dirty hotspots and for FedCap and also about budget items. Marvin,
Laura?
Marvin, you have a question?
Well, two things. First, I'm sorry I'm late. Second, I want to say it's very nice having seen Eric Dinowitz in his new position. That's
Thanks,
all I
Marvin.
wanted to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Next on our agenda, I'd like to welcome our new commanding officer, Charles Gervin.
Hello, how are you?
Here we are. I want to say that Captain Commanding Officer Melendez was a terrific friend to this board, answered our questions, was a straight shooter, cared about our quality of life. He was always accessible, and we will miss him. I think we will all miss him. But I want to say that Commanding Officer Charles Gervin is no stranger to this board. He has heard our complaints. He will hit the ground running. He knows our issues and problems. And I was very, very delighted to hear that you are our new commanding officer. So thank you and welcome on behalf of myself and Community Board 8. And
Okay.
now the floor is yours.
Yep, just like I say every time I speak to the board, we're here for you guys. Like Ms. Balta said, Lee Melendez and Terry O'Toole before him were commanding officers who were really integrated with the community, and they, they really listened to what you had to say, and because it's relevant to our police work. And I'm going to do the same. I found that their methods of policing worked in the community, and I know that by speaking to you often enough that our limitations of resources and things like that. But your problems are real. We're willing to address them. And all you have to do is either reach out to our community affairs officers, come on in and speak to us in person if you feel comfortable with that. We're still in that COVID environment, so that we can really get a feel for your personal reflections of what's going on in the community, and see if we can, if we as the police department can address those, or if we have to make contact with another city agency, and we're willing to do that also.
Thank you. Do you have any update or data reports for us?
Right now, we're doing well. We're one of the few precincts in the Bronx that are actually down in crime, and the majority of our crime, as you've heard me say in the past, is theft of property. Probably 82% or more now is property-related crime, and that's something that we can help out the community with our community affairs officers, as well as our crime prevention officer, police officer Ralph Cintron. We have cars being stolen, and I say about a third of them are vehicles with keys left in the ignition. So if we're able to get our community correction, our crime prevention officer out to community events that are being held, maybe the community can be more enlightened about some of the precautions they can take and reduce the amount of cars being stolen, because that's a lot. And if it's simply, and that's not just leaving the key ignition while you're running in for a coffee. A lot of times people have 2 sets of keys and they'll leave one of the key fobs in the car, unaware that that car will still start. And that's the way we lose a lot of cars here. But overall, for week to date, our crime is down 28%, which is very good. We're flat for the month and we're down almost 6% for the year. And comparing that to other areas of the Bronx, we're doing well, especially coming off 2020, which is was like a record low for COVID numbers. And so I see us continuing in that direction. And of course, we're going to make arrests on investigations related to the other kind of crimes like robbery, grand larceny, and the grand larceny automobiles.
Thank you very much, Officer. I see one hand up. Marty, we'll have time tonight because we have a very long agenda. We'll have time for 3 questions. Marty, go ahead.
Welcome to your position and good luck in the years to come. I'm concerned about the gentleman, who, I use that word, who threw rocks at the religious Jewish organizations last year. Do you have any knowledge about what's happening with this case?
Now, the case is still on standby with the Bronx District Attorney's Office. Our officers do have photos of him. He is a resident of the precinct and he lives nearby the Riverdale Jewish Center. That's assigned sector, as well as the NCOs, has that gentleman's photograph, and they're aware to keep an eye on him if they see him in the locality. When the incidents occurred, we deployed our resources, both our anti-crime and our NCOs, under the supervision of our Special Operations Lieutenant. They had a great plan. They put that plan into action. And the night that it started our plan was the night they actually apprehended the subject coming from the conservative synagogue up on 250th Street. And that put an end to the criminal mischief of those religious institutions. So I think it was a good police work, cohesive with the community, as well as representatives of those temples that were able to provide us with video. We turned that into pictures and we were able to make that apprehension.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, we will move on our agenda to the chair's report. Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to speaking more with you, Officer Gervin, Commanding Officer. Okay, so please see the executive minutes for my complete chair's report, but I do have some announcements. One, I have a great new office update. I'm thrilled to announce that our new office will be located at 185 West 231st Street, which was formerly the site of Capital Bank, next to Dale Diner. And it's taken us many, many years to get to this point where we're now entering into something called a Section 195 hearing. And that is something where DCAS, Kira and I, Jutan, Department of City Planning, all we collaborate together for a public hearing, which will take place on September 22nd. There is a link and Kira will send it around to the board tomorrow. So we hope that you join. We will talk about the space, there will be maps. The advantages of our new space are huge. First of all, it's in Kingsbridge. It's in the hub of on Broadway. It'll be accessible to so many more people in the district, centrally located. It's got the train, the 1 train, the 7, the 9, the 10, the 20, the 1 bus. It's in a great area. It's ADA accessible, which our current office really is not. It's been configured so that we can actually fit 40 people as opposed to 16, barely in our conference room now. So that will be a terrific boon. It's got huge windows and high ceilings, and we'll have a fantastic HVAC system with air. Be very modern and new. That's all the good news. The bad news is that it's under construction and we can't move in till next summer. So a year from now, we hope to be there. I think the wheels of bureaucracy work very, very slowly. And I must say that Rosemary Ginty started this process years ago. It was the first thing she did when she was chair to address this and find a new space. And, she's worked very, very hard on that. And I'd like that reflected in the minutes. I understand she's not here tonight, or I'd have her speak for a few minutes, but I know we have dotted every I and crossed every T to get to this point. And we're just very, very excited about the new office. Let's see. This is my favorite, welcoming and introducing our 6 new members. And I'd like you to just say a few words about yourself, and I'll call out the names. Kelly Buford. Kelly is on the line, Kira?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, welcome. Please introduce yourself, say a few words.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to serve the community. I have been a member of Community Board 8 for approximately most of my adult life, I will say. And I am an integral member of the community. I have helped with the Fort Independence Park Neighborhood Association when we had issues with the Stag Corporation. I also serve on the board of my housing cooperative, and I'm just excited to be part of the community board, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. Wonderful. Is Stephen Vasquez?
Yep.
Great. Welcome. Please say a few words.
Thank you. So first and foremost, I just want to thank City Council Member Eric Dinowitz and Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz for providing me with the opportunity. Throughout the past 12, 15 years, I've always tried to give back to my community in which I resided and worked in, whether that be through volunteering at local shelters, donating clothing to homeless, or participating in community neighborhood fridges. Natural public servant, currently in law enforcement. I know it's not a popular profession nowadays, especially within the last year. But even with that, I hope that I can contribute, to finding sound and equitable resolutions to problems to the residents of the community board faces.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. Next, we have Constance Bars Watson. Constance, are you able to?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thank you all for having me here. Likewise, I'd like to thank Councilman Dinowitz. We share a special education background. I'm an educator by trade. I work for a local nonprofit here in the Bronx that provides technical education. I'm a Lehman graduate and an adjunct at Lehman. I have been in the community for about 3 years and really happy to officially be a member of the board to continue to help the community grow and prosper. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we have Sebastian Chidalapilli.
Hi, thank you, Laura. I'm Sebastian, and I've been a resident of Community Board 8 for the last 12 years. I want to thank Councilman and also Bronx Borough President's Office for selecting me. I work in the field of developmental disabilities for a nonprofit in New York City. And I'm also a member of the State Rehab Council, working for employment for people with developmental disabilities. Look forward to work with the board and make a positive change in the community.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Christopher Calhoun. Christopher.
Hello, Community Board 8. What to say? I've lived in this neighborhood my entire life. Schooled through the public school system, the Milton Fine School known as PS7. Junior high school 141, John F. Kennedy, and I didn't stray far for college either. I went to Lehman. Being active in the community kind of runs in my family's blood. My dad was a founding member of the Civilian Patrol Committee with a gentleman by the name of Herb Lieberman. My mom was pretty active in the community as well with your District Board Manager Demetrius Grace Belkin, who I knew very well also. I worked for the Circle Line Sightseeing Company for 30 years, and I was hired by the founding father of that company, who was a Riverdalian, Francis J. Barry, who lived on Independence Avenue. And I also, until recently, worked for the DOT, and I've heard all the stuff about them. No, had nothing to do with anything you're talking about. I was on the water in the ferry division. Nice to meet you all. Some of you I have seen before in the neighborhood. I love 10463 and 10471 very much. It's in my blood, and I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Osvaldo Jimenez. Osvaldo? Kira, is Osvaldo Jimenez?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, maybe he'll join us later. We welcome the new blood. We welcome you. This is the favorite part of the evening, meeting the new members. We did send out our meeting calendar and mission statements to you. So please let us know your 2 committee choices so that we can update our committee list. And then any questions, we'll be chatting soon. You'll get a chance to have an orientation with Kira, myself, and the officers, and we'll schedule that very soon and let you know. So thank you so much. Okay, I just want to say we have a long agenda tonight, and I ask that we be respectful of everybody's time in our reports. At the end of the meeting, we will be moving into an executive session. So that's why I will attempt to, move the meeting along. So let's see. Next, we'll have our treasurer's report. Dio?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Welcome to the new members as well. So I'll just keep this brief. Everyone should have received the treasurer's report. So our total budget for fiscal year 2022 is $281,804. We've allocated $32,299 from our total budget so far, and we have $249,505 remaining. Following that, you'll see a table 1.1, which is our other than personal services budget. That's showing our progress. Currently, we've allocated $7,637 and have $27,383 of our other than personal services budget remaining. There are no budget modifications. And next up is table 1.3 with our purchase orders and accounts payable update showing we hold $4,962 in encumbered funds. But please note that there is a lag between the FMS, between FMS and OMB. So it might appear that we hold more in encumbered funds than we actually do. And the differences will be worked out by OMB. And finally, we have a rent and energy budget that's maintained separately by OMB and in accordance to our lease, but it's there for your reference. And we've allocated $6,023 out of $67,172. And that's it. Anyone has any questions?
Let me see. Do we have any hands up? I see Margaret on the phone.
Hi, I apologize. I was yelling at another driver when Assemblyman Dinowitz was speaking, so it was nothing related to him. But also I had a question about the budget and moving office spaces. What can we anticipate to be the cost that the office will incur, or is that a separate capital budget that really isn't placed on the office itself, and that comes from another part of city funds?
Sure.
Thank God. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
So Kira and Laura can speak to this a little better, but fortunately, since we've been anticipating this move for a long time, we have slowly but surely built up, a good nest egg of equipment and furniture and supplies. So we should be in good shape to move. It shouldn't really, it's just not gonna be a big chunk of the budget, but if Kira or Laura wants to say anything.
Well,
I will
OMB,
add, sorry, Laura.
No, I was just say that, thank God, I mean, the rent is taken care of for us automatically. It's not a matter of our budget, and it will continue to be taken care of. So we'll have more space and a better office and not be the poorer for it. But Kira, go ahead.
I will just add that we will be responsible for the moving costs. So that is, that will obviously be a good chunk of change, either at the end of this fiscal year or next. And what we did was, back in April, we put money sort of into a line to save it. So we'll have that kind of ready to go if we need it this fiscal year to move.
But it's the same expenses, basically, same rent, you know, for the new office. Any other questions? Dan?
Sorry, just to clarify on that, you're saying you've saved, I'm sorry, what exactly did you save from last year?
No, we didn't save from last year. In April, when we were setting up this fiscal year's budget, we put $15,000 into a holding code 499 for if we needed to move it, if we needed to use it for moving expenses.
And where is that located in the budget?
Code 499.
The fifth, so is, and again, I mean, I can't see the report, but that's located in the report, I guess, underneath that there's just 15K encumbered under office.
There's probably a little bit more because Council Member Rodriguez gave us $5,000 as well, but that's OMB's holding code. So that's where money kind of sits until we do a budget modification when we need it.
So what if we don't move before July 1st?
So we'll know that obviously, and we'll be able to do a budget modification before that and spend it on something else.
Do you know when we'll know? Because again, you're talking about spending 15K in whatever amount of time. So at what point do we, and I guess this is probably, you know, more Laura, Dio, and leadership looking at it, at what point do we basically say, okay, we're not going to be moving till after July 1st, we need to spend this money?
And we will know that in the next couple of weeks after our hearing and everything like that.
But I guess, and again, it's a little bit more directed. If what we're waiting, you've got a hearing, which is one process, but I guess the other process is going to be construction, which we don't have any control over. So there's two separate things that are going on here. And I just think, and again, it's September, so we do have some time, but I think it needs to be given some thought. At what point, if we're holding $15,000 on the side, and maybe it's April, maybe it's May, that we come to the realization that it's not going to be spent in this fiscal year. And Laura, it's something that we need to
we
work
will
out as
know.
we move forward.
We will know certainly by the end of this year, and we will be able to move it out of the holding code and spend it on something else.
So Kira, it's your representation that we're going to know whether or not construction will be finished by June 30th and whether or not we're going to be approved
Now
by.
that we can't be held on. The construction will be finished by June 30th.
Right, and
From your
most
mouth
likely
to
it
God's
won't-
ears.
Yeah, most likely it won't be, but we also have a lease. So the city is gonna have a really good idea of when our lease is gonna stop and
So I'm not,
when we
you know,
start the new
lease.
one.
So our current lease is a different issue. I mean, it's a third one, which, you know, I don't, again, another topic, but what I'm talking about is the money can, again, we're on the treasurer's kind of part of this. If we have 15K set aside that you've mentioned, we just got to figure out what we're doing with that 15K as the spring runs along.
Yeah, and we do every year, so I'm not worried about that.
Okay, thank you for raising that, Dan. Lots of balls in the air, you know, so lots of balls in the air. I don't see any other hands. We have district managers report. Kira. And thank you, Dio. Thank you very much.
All right, good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a great summer. Welcome to our new members. I met one of you last week at the press conference with our elected officials, Jeff Dinowitz and Eric Dinowitz, and Families for Safe Streets. So under a tragic circumstance, it was still very nice to meet you, Chris. Like I said, I look forward to working with all of our new members. The office has remained busy with administrative duties, lots of resident and community issues. And we did start the summer organizing the office to start working again in person. We had about 2 or 3 weeks when we were all together in the office, kind of converting all of our files, preparing for this new community board year, and then Hurricane Ida hit and we were flooded. We were inundated with water. And we're at this time unable to work in the office. We had a lot of damage back in July in the first hurricane storm, and then even more damage 2 weeks ago in Hurricane Ida. Working with our landlord on kind of rectifying some of those issues. I'm working with OMB and DCAS and FEMA and putting in a claim. So it's just kind of taken up a lot of time. You know, my heart goes out to families who are doing this in their homes and, you know, had more damage than we did in the office. Also throughout the summer, we partnered on an organic recycling event with sanitation and elected officials. We tabled at National Night Out, which was a great event, and we sponsored NYCHA Family Day at Marble Hill. We also worked with the Doe Fund on a graffiti cleanup effort in Marble Hill, and Councilman Rodriguez gave us $5,000 to do something similar again in that area. Tanya in the office is working right now with EDC because a lot of that graffiti has come back, and we're starting to kind of compile a list of hotspots that we would like them to take a look at. And back, this all seems so long ago, but it wasn't. On August 21st, we were able to, the Yankees gave us 300 tickets for community groups, community centers that we were able to distribute. The 5 Yankee awardees received their checks and they were able to go with their families and sit in the judges' chambers, which was really great. And I heard great feedback from a lot of our different groups. And we thank the Yankees for their partnership year after year. And again, I look forward to a productive work year with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kira. Before we do the roll call and get to our committee reports, I just want to mention that the order of the committees is a bit skewed this month, and in terms of the alphabetical order and, you know, following the pattern, and it will be on target for next month. Okay, so Lisa, the roll call.
Sure, I do see, Bob, you had a question? I see your hand was up.
It was, yeah. Kira, I understand you also had a visit from the health department over the summer. Could you brief us about that?
Sure, how quick I forget. Thanks, Bob. The Department of Health sent an inspector to our office after the first storm, and they confirmed there was black mold in the entranceway of the office. And I will mention they didn't go too far in, so I'm sure there was even more. Like I said, I was in the office today. The smell, you could see mold spores on the walls now because water was 3 to 4 feet high in every inch of the office. So I'm sure that has grown even more.
So there is, I think it's fair to say there is some sense of urgency about making this move from where the office is now to 231st Street.
Certainly, and I have made that clear to the folks working on our new office space. A lot of them are the same people helping me with my claim. So they're very well aware. They've seen pictures, they've seen videos, and they know this is no joke.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa.
Now we'll do a roll call. Just for new people, when we meet in person, we have a sign-in sheet for all board members and guests. But since we don't have sign-in sheets, we're doing a roll call just to make sure that we capture everybody. So if you would unmute yourself when you hear me call your name and just say present to let us know that you're here. Okay, so Sylvia Alexander.
Present.
Constance Barnes.
Present.
Thank you. Welcome. Bob Bender.
Here.
Thank you. Kelly Buford.
Present.
Thank you, Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you.
Christopher Calhoun.
Present.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Joyce Campbell Prepter.
Present.
Thank you. Hi, Joy. Sebastian Titolopoli.
Present.
Hi, Sebastian. Welcome. Courtney Dastis Galvin. I didn't see Courtney. Are you here? No? I'm Lisa Dowd. Hello. Margaret Della.
Present.
Hey, Margaret Donato.
Present.
Margaret Paul Ellis.
Present.
Thank you. Diamaris Escanio Bell.
Present.
Theo Moses Asema.
Present. Hey there. Hi, Lisa.
Moses. Robert Fanuzzi.
Present.
Thank you. Nick Fazio.
Present.
Thank you. Steve Fruit. All right, I did not see Steve, so we'll come back. David Gelman.
Present.
Thank you. Rosemary Ginty said she will not be here, but just checking. Rosemary? No? Julia Gomez?
Here.
Hey, Julia. Marvin Goodman?
Here.
Thank you. Ed Green?
Present.
Thank you. Robert Jaklowski?
Present.
Thank you. Now, did Asvali Jimenez join us? Asvali, no. Myra Joyce?
Present.
Thank you. Robert Kaplan?
Here.
Okay. Luis Lopez? No. Charles Merdler? Chuck, are you here? No. Theodore Morris? Ted, are you here? No. Omar Murray?
Present.
Hey, Omar, thanks. Dan Paternak?
Sorry, present, Lisa.
Hey, Dan, okay. Tracy Pardo? I did not see Tracy. Did you join us? Nope. Karen Pesh? I saw Karen. I did see Karen. Let's see. We will come back. I know Karen was here. Rita Popterlow.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the new members.
Julie Reyes. Julie. Georgia Santiago.
Present.
Georgia. Ramdat Singh.
Present.
Okay. Laura Spalter.
Of course, here. Yeah.
Camelia Tepoulis.
Present.
Okay. Deborah Travis.
Present.
Thank you. Jill Towns. Okay, I did not see Jill. Did you join us? Okay. Stephen Vasquez.
Present.
Hey, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Sergio Villaverde.
Present and unaccounted for.
Marty Wolfhoff.
Present and accounted for.
Thank you. And if I do ever mess up anyone's name, just let me know. Thank you. Okay, we're done. Thanks.
Kira, I just texted Chuck and he having trouble getting on. Can you please resend him the link?
Sure.
Okay, that's what I said. Okay, in the meantime, we'll just move on to law, rules, and ethics. Marty?
Yes, thank you, and welcome to the new members. I just want to indicate a couple of weeks ago, last week, I asked the board to send out a primer, as I called it, from the LRE committee about some of the issues and names that I thought, A, that new members would be interested in knowing about, and B, as a reminder to board members if they have any questions. And I raised that if there are questions, then contact me or contact the board And I can either try to get back to you, or if there's an item of major concern, we'll put it on the agenda for our October meeting. And I welcome all new members to consider joining the Law, Rules, and Ethics Committee. And pretty much that's my report for tonight, except I would like to take a point of personal privilege. Way back in the dark ages, when I was chair of the board in 1992, there were two things that I did concerning the board procedure, which pretty much has followed, and I'd just like to remind whomever about them. First was the board met on the executive committee met on the first Tuesday of the month, and the board met on the third Tuesday of the month. And as board chair, I found that to be burdensome, because basically what chairs were doing at the executive committee was giving the exact same report they were going to give at the board meeting, so it was repetitive. And so I asked that the executive committee committee chairs bring up resolutions for discussion. And then I made it so that it was the first Tuesday was the executive committee, and the first Wednesday was the executive committee, and the second Tuesday is the board meeting, to make it shorter so that that time in between things would not change. And that seems to have been very effective over the last 20 years. The second thing, I found it very not inappropriate, but it became not fair. We followed the alphabetical listing, starting with aging every month, so that the youth and whatever came last every month. And sometimes people chose not to stay for the entire meeting. So I found that inconsiderate. And so what I did is began an alphabetical listing. We started with aging, and then budget the next second month, and so on. And so over the years, we had that kind of rotation. So I just bring that to your attention, and appreciate the comments made by Laura earlier about what the agenda would look like in the future, because that system seems to work and be most fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. I don't know if Chuck is on yet.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, very good. Welcome, Chuck. Welcome. So
Thank you.
You're on. We can bring up
We have
resolution. Yeah.
We have two resolutions and one report vote. Let me get the report vote out of the way. We voted to table a proposal put to us by the Department of Construction and whatever to install on West 230th and Broadway a victims unit in the building, because there was concern expressed that there would be parking problems with the police officers parking on 230th, which is a mess as it is, and because there had been no parking plan of any kind put together or effort to deal with that issue. We voted unanimously to table that, although I'm not sure if it was unanimous, in that I don't know where Camellia came out on that one. But I think it was unanimous. In any event, that they are going to meet with Traffic and Transportation, Deb, and with you and Dan, to try and see if they can put some plan together. It has the potential of being a serious problem unless they can really come up with something. They have a small lot that they will theoretically be allowed into as part of their deal, but it's clearly going to overflow in no time at all. The two resolutions, let me take the one that is least controversial first. The resolution was to install in the Riverdale Park a 3869 Palisades, a new pump station for DEP. That went through the meeting of the Environmental and Sanitation Committee. And I believe traffic was with them on this. There was no one speaking against it. And therefore, there is before you a resolution approving the unanimous vote of the committee.
You want to call the question? Are we ready to take a vote? Is there anyone opposed to this resolution?
Chair Spalter, can I just mention it for everyone? There's new people here, so board members, please raise your hand.
Oh, yes.
When Chair Spalter calls out the vote, the request to vote.
Okay, not seeing any hands on this or discussion. If there's anyone opposed, please raise your hand. Is there anyone abstaining on this vote? Please raise your hand. We deem this then approved unanimously.
Great. And one more thing, besides Chuck Merdler, Julie Reyes joined us, so they've also voted affirmative for the record.
And Jill.
And, oh, Jill, sorry, Jill Towns. Yep.
The next resolution is the one involving outdoor dining. City Planning had proposed a text amendment dealing on its face with the sidewalk dining as contrasted with what is called roadway dining, which is in the street while the sidewalk is, as it said, on the sidewalk. But there was a clear overlap between the two. The moment you look at the text changes, the geography, and even the material supporting it, the two are inexorably intertwined. There are a number of serious concerns with it, which I'll get to second. But first, let me tell you why this resolution was likewise adopted, I believe unanimously, with the possible exception of Camelia. I just have trouble following where she ends up voting on this and the other one. The present law permitting roadway restaurants and sidewalk facilities is not a law, but is an executive order of the mayor. It continues through 2022, and the successor in 4 months to the existing mayor can extend it at that point if the emergency still exists. There is no significant dispute that I am aware of that restaurants and cafes have fallen on extremely hard times by reason of the pandemic, and that they have been crying out for, and in my personal view, are clearly entitled to some relief, whether it be tax relief, which is not mentioned here, or relief which has been granted, which are these sidewalk and street cafes. The street cafes have raised a number of concerns. But in terms of the actual vote, let me deal with the actual vote and then deal with the concerns separately, all right? It is very clear from the statements made by city planning and by a very forthcoming representative of DOT that there are at least 3 significant problems which warrant a rejection of the proposal for the text change at this time and until the following steps are taken. 1, and by the way, nothing adverse can happen. The current system continues at least through the end of next year. What are the problems? This bill, this proposed amendment.
Hi, I'm on a meeting.
This proposed zoning text
Okay.
Sylvia, please. This proposed text change is not in and of itself effective to achieve anything without a great deal of implementing legislation, regulations, and city council ordinance changes. For example, it does nothing in terms of safety and security. Many of those roadway cafes have caused problems in terms of collapsing, causing people problems within them and the like. Number two, there's nothing in the zoning text amendment which really precludes something which is a really serious phenomenon, and one part of it is visible in our community. And if you go to 60th Street between 5th and Madison Avenue in Manhattan, you'll find that one entire side of the street is captured by a continuum of one of these sidewalk cafes. And when you then add the bicycle lane and the parked cars on the other, the bus can't even get through, and no cars can get through most of the time. That same problem occurred yesterday. My wife was being driven somewhere. The fellow got out the car to open the door. There's only one lane of traffic because you have the sidewalk, the roadway cafe, then you have the double parked cars. Then on the other side of the street, you have the legally parked cars. And if there's no double parking on the other side, you have one narrow lane in between. And this is on Johnson Avenue. He got out of the car, a car's mirror hit his elbow, and he's got problems. This is not not unexpected. The situation, go any Friday over to Johnson Avenue, you can see it for yourself. So that's an issue that has to be dealt with. Where you have this, do you provide that there can be no parking on the other side of the street, or do you actively enforce the rules against double parking? The moment you get into that conversation, you also wind up with a question of how many parking spots are going to be eliminated by this in the busiest urban areas. And then you get to the next question of, in several parts of the area, the restaurants themselves have gotten away completely from any interior facility, and it's all outdoors. And they make a deal with the store next door on one side and the store on the next side. And you now have the sidewalk cafe extending for three of them. There are a number of underlying issues, all of which have to be dealt with in the regulations that they tell us, they being city planning and DOT, tell us they are going to be working on. And my response to that was, well, when are we going to see it? When we get it ready was the answer. Well, it seems to me you're buying a Trojan horse at best if you approve one piece of this without the rest. That is the view taken by a number of community boards throughout the city of New York. There is one other issue, and that is that under this proposal, the Department of Consumer Affairs, which has been highly focused on community needs, community concerns, business needs and the like, will be, which has been running the program, will be ousted, and DOT, which has not demonstrated any great appreciation for community concerns, will instead supplant it. Pardon me? Pardon me? Okay, so that's where we are. The motion before you is one again that was adopted last night, and it either was, yes, there was one opposition vote, and that is Camellia. So that's the resolution to confirm the Land Use Committee's position, which turns this down subject to its being raised again when they have the information. I'm ready for.
Any discussion? Any questions for Chuck? Let me go to.
Laura, there are several hands up.
Okay.
Camelia,
Go
Bob, and
ahead, Camellia, and then Nick, and then Bob Bender.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to provide an alternative view on the matter of the sidewalk cafes. I'm not so sure I fully agree with the way the conversation was related, but I will not go into the details. I just want to say that on this matter, planning is simply requesting removal of text that was prior to COVID that made establishment of sidewalk cafes so extremely difficult for establishments in New York City. We almost have a renaissance of outdoor dining in New York City, kind of accidentally because of COVID. And we see how big of a difference it made to the life of the city, not to mention to support the small businesses. So all they are saying right now is that one, they acknowledge DOT will have to put in place a much better informed process for outdoor cafes, which is expected to take about 1.5 to 2 years. But what they want to do is clear those obstacles that were there prior to COVID. So for this reason, and as a member of economic development and as a BID executive director, I voted to support this thing that had to be done anyway prior to COVID, because it was so ridiculous, the requirements that were in place in New York City. I also want to make an observation regarding to the matter that Chuck mentioned, NYPD coming to us asking for establishment of a special victim support unit over on 230th. I mean,
I'm sorry,
postponed this-
Camelia. We just,
That
at
was
this
adopted.
juncture, we just have to speak to the motion that's before us. I'm
I
so
understand.
sorry.
No worries,
Yeah,
no
we
worries.
We have to stick to
I
this
understand, Laura.
motion.
I'm stopping.
Okay.
Okay, just wanted to
Thank you,
make that
Camelia.
explanation though. Thanks. Also, please correct my name, Chuck, if possible, in the resolutions. I'm now in the 3rd year on the board. Maybe we can get my name right. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Camelia.
That was
I'm
my
sorry,
fault,
I
Camelia.
failed.
Can we keep
I'll
it,
fix that.
I
can we keep
failed
the
to-
resolution up, please?
Yes, keep the
So
resolution up.
that the record is clear, I did not include the spelling of any of the names of the votes at the bottom of that resolution. I just did the text.
Okay, I failed to ask if Jutan was here, and I just want to make sure. Kira, is Jutan or city planning on the call?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Jutan, thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, so I just want to acknowledge that Jutan is here. I think next was Nick.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I want to thank the Land Use Committee and Jutan and Fernando Ortiz from City Planning for so thoroughly flushing out the details of this issue and this initiative. And this is why we go through this process and have these discussions, because there were a lot of valid points that were raised on both sides of it. I think it's pretty clear that the majority of constituents in this district and throughout the city want a long-term plan for outdoor dining. I also think it's clear that the hospitality industry needs a long-term plan. And to that end, the text amendment was presented as a first step in that process. The committee brought up some very valid concerns, and I share some of those same concerns in terms of safety, in terms of uniformity of the design, and so forth. However, if we slow the process down, the executive order, in effect, will be the long-term plan for outdoor dining. And the current land use regulations will continue to be irrelevant. In that case, the issues and concerns regarding regulations, uniformity, design, safety, and the like will continue to go unaddressed. As far as waiting for the pandemic to subside, unfortunately, I am not as sanguine as some of my colleagues. I hope I'm wrong, but I fear that there will be more variants and that we are going to have to adjust to the new normal, whether we like it or not. And that new normal is going to include more open spaces, outdoor dining, and things like that we did in a capacity as an emergency, but now it's going to become the new reality. And I think the path to a long-term plan has been presented to us by the Department of City Planning. And for that reason, I'm inclined to vote against the resolution as it's currently written and express my support for the city moving forward with the development of a comprehensive long-term plan that allows the businesses to take advantage of the economic opportunities concomitant with outdoor dining, and for citizens of our city to enjoy the outdoor dining experience safely. The economic upside is indisputable at this point, as Camila pointed out, and the consumer demand is indicative of the overall consensus all you have to do is walk by, whether it's on 2nd Avenue in Manhattan near my business, or whether it's on Johnson Avenue or Mashalu or any of the other streets with outdoor dining establishments.
Nick, I think
Thank you.
you misunderstand. It was not a purpose to await the conclusion of the pandemic. The primary purpose was, this is the first step in a process that prejudges the rest of the process. If you don't have the regulations, you could wind up with all sorts of things being done. So that when we see the language, and if they have it, they haven't shown it to us, for things like the safety of the structure, the length of the structure, whether there should be a roof, whether it should be enclosed at all 4 sides, whether it should operate exclusively of having any indoor dining, whether it supplants sidewalk cafes, which are those kinds of things that people, I think, almost universally favor because they don't take up parking or street or traffic problems. You were talking about 2nd Avenue. I will tell you, during my years on the MTA, the sidewalk cafes were fine. The roadway cafes, ask anybody involved with the bus system, and they will tell you they slowed the speed of buses materially, especially in Manhattan. Now that can be solved by planning where they can go and where they can't go. To simply change it and eliminate any regulation is insane because you don't know what's going to be in its place. But if that's
Thank
what you
you.
want.
Thank you, Chair Mordler. I disagree with your interpretation of the intention of the text amendment at this point. I see it as something that because of the executive order that will go on indefinitely, just because of political pressure and because of public demand, until there is a long-term plan. To me, it is the first step in the process. The executive order is overriding the land use regulation at this point. And I really think we need to hash out all of the issues that was thoroughly addressed at the Land Use Committee by all of the committee members and by Department of City Planning. So again, I welcome this process. I think it's a good process because we're getting a lot of these issues out there. And I'm sure that DCP and DOT will agree that a lot of the things that we raise, the ideas that we raise and concerns we raise will be addressed ultimately. So I think it's a good discussion that we're having.
We have a lot of hands up. We have Bob Bender, David Gelman, Margaret, her phone, is that Margaret Della or Margaret Donato?
It's probably Della.
Okay, and then Marty Walpoff. Okay, so go right ahead, Bob Bender.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. The first I saw this resolution was this afternoon from the September 2nd land use meeting. I was at that land use meeting and I was there for the entire discussion. I participated in the discussion. I'm not recorded as having voted, but as I say,
you definitely did participate and you definitely were there the entire time. As I
Right.
said, I didn't do the vote business at the bottom.
right. Okay, I mean, if we had a vote in principle pending the resolution, that's fine. But, I did express concerns and I certainly would have voted in favor of the resolution. I do want to say, addressing Nick's concern, I know we are all concerned about the restaurants and they took a tremendous hit during this COVID epidemic and the sidewalk and especially the street facilities saved a lot of restaurants that certainly would have gone under otherwise. The issue, I think that, and Chuck, you expressed it, is that there's just too much that's unresolved and unclear at this point to go ahead and say yes to what city planning and DOT brought before us. The real concern was that at the meeting, we kept being told that, the issue we were voting on was the sidewalks rather than the facilities in the street. And nobody has a problem with what's going on with the sidewalks in Community Board 8. It's the street that's the issue. So it was a very strange presentation. I'm totally in support in principle. I don't want to get into wordsmithing, and I know we have a long meeting tonight, but I'm a little confused by the wording of this resolution. It seems to me the therefore clause is unorthodox, to put it politely. The final whereas clause should be the be it resolved clause. That's where the committee expressed its concerns and its reason for opposing the information that was put before us from city planning and DOT. I would just suggest that the last whereas clause be made the be it resolved clause.
I have no problem with that. I'm fine with that. I took this language or coined this language solely because, as I said, this is essentially without prejudice until we get the whole package, not to do it on the installment plan. That's right in this form.
I agree. All right, thank you.
So Chuck, you accept that as a,
Sure.
okay. And David Gelman is next.
Yes, thank you. At the land use meeting, I noted that we have 3 constituencies regarding this issue, and now Chuck brings to the fore actually a 4th constituency about the use of this roadway or curbside space as well as sidewalk space. And those constituencies are obviously the restaurants, who have really been hurt quite badly in the last 18 months, but also there are the neighboring retail establishments who rely on the turnover of parking at the curbside in front of their establishments, as well as the restaurants, what have you. There is also the neighbors who lose the use of the sidewalk to some extent in their neighborhood, plus the noise that remains in the evening over the outdoor dining, as well as the fact that they can't park in their neighborhood overnight. The restaurants need it for about 6 hours a night, but the space is taken up for 24 hours. And now Chuck's point that the use of the street space also gets in the way of the movement of traffic, particularly buses. So for those reasons, I am supportive of the notion of, under this emergency basis, where we have tried to help out these embattled restaurants in the short term, and thus to extend this for another year or so. But the prospect of making a permanent change, particularly as noted, that the details aren't clear to us, I don't think we should support in any sense the city planning having free reign to make such changes. And that's why I voted for this resolution and acknowledge Vice Chair Bender's edits. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Margaret Della.
Thank you. Two things. One, in reading this resolution, I guess in part, I sort of am concerned about the language in so much that I myself have a hard time following the resolution. It gets really complicated and it's hard to understand. And I'm just wondering from, and for me to take a step back and like reread it and go through it, etc. I just offer it as a point of conversation and perhaps something for us to reflect on in the future, but I'm not sure how other community members are able to keep up with what we're discussing in this resolution. I did find this one in particular to be difficult to follow myself in terms of what we're recommending. And then my other point is that, typically I would think that that something like this would be brought to the Economic Development Committee and land use, or sometimes having a joint conversation around it. I feel as though we're not really hearing from the businesses and sort of speaking to concerns that perhaps we have personally about the respective space. But I'm wondering if this is, I'm sure there's some sort of guidance on why land use took this up itself. But I was wondering what were the reasons why economic development was not incorporated into the conversation.
Margaret, permit me to answer that. A, I did not volunteer, okay? This is not something I solicited in any manner, way, shape, or form. Two, more important than that, it's a change in the zoning resolution. And that's where the Land Use Committee primarily functions. By definition, it's a land use issue, therefore. It shouldn't be. I agree with you. We should have before us the full panoply of economic changes proposed by Consumer Affairs. We should have building department at the least telling us what is a safe facility and what is not. We should have DOT telling us what the full traffic impact and proposals are, so that it would cut across a majority of the committees of the board, or at least many of them, and it should be a joint committee when next it comes back. I couldn't agree with you more. Every one of those committees is impacted.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. Marty? Marty?
Come on.
Okay, are you
Okay.
muted? Okay.
I'm unmuted now. I don't want to belabor what has been said, but there are three things that bother me about the presentation, about the presentation that was made. One, city planning seems to come back with skeletons and they refuse to give us the body of what they're talking about. The old adage of the devil is in the details, they refuse to give us details. We went through this problem with the change they wanted to make in SNAD and would never share with us what the actual changes were going to be. Thankfully, Staten Island killed it. But so I don't trust until they come back with the details. I don't think we should support anything. Secondly, it is DOT, who the first presentation made tonight by our on the community people speaking from the community was the fact that DOT doesn't listen. So I'm concerned about that. And at least with the Department of Consumer Affairs, they asked for community input. We had a chance to put our 2 cents in. DOT doesn't want our 2 cents, and they'll act as they elected in the last activities with bike lanes and whatever, without asking us, just doing. And so that's why I'm in favor of this resolution.
Thank you, Marty. Bob Panuzzi.
Thanks, Madam Chair. This is a question for Jutan. Jutan, can you very briefly say the advantage of transferring these cafes to DOT, number one? And number two, is the why this is taking place through a text change rather than some kind of administrative code change? Thanks, Jutan.
Is Jutan, are you muted? Let's see.
I just lost a whole section here.
Jutan? Kier, did we lose Jutan?
I'm checking the participants now.
While we're waiting.
We must have lost him.
Oh. Can we text him? I also had a question. For example, I believe right now there's no cost to the business, but under the new regs, I was wondering if Jutan could say what would the cost be? Because that's a biggie. You know, on a square foot basis type of thing.
Well, there may also be a tax at that point. It's a public roadway that you're occupying, so you may wind up with a tax issue too.
Right. Many businesses may not be able to afford to do this. That's a very big question mark. I'm sorry we lost him.
Chutan is
Right.
actually here. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to see the participants. So I'm just asking
He's
him
here,
to
but he's not
unmute now.
responding.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect.
Maybe he stepped away from his computer.
Proceed though, proceed with your meeting.
Oh,
Madam Chair.
great. I see
Okay.
Jutan. Okay. I don't know if Jutan heard the question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes,
could hear
Jutan,
you.
thanks.
I'm using my phone and it's harder than normal, so.
Okay.
Can you, sorry, repeat the questions?
Jutan, I asked from the Department of City Planning side, what would be the advantage of transferring jurisdiction from agency to agency? And secondly, why this didn't take place in the change in administrative code, why it's taking place in the zoning resolution. Perhaps it's there right now. If you could just answer those two questions. Thanks, Jutan.
Yeah, so, and I'll even just take a half step back and just share exactly what the text is. So today, because we've had discussion on both the sidewalk cafe part as well as the street portion. Today in the zoning resolution, we regulate the sidewalk cafes essentially. And through basically this text amendment, we are looking at removing it from the zoning resolution.
Sidewalks, okay.
Yeah, the sidewalk cafe. So there's nothing in the zoning resolution today about the street program.
Okay.
So while that was part of the presentation and the discussion, because we want to present the open restaurants that has been talked about as a whole, and we had DOT available to start having those discussions, that isn't in the zoning resolution, so it wasn't part of the text, and it will be, both those pieces will be part of follow-up discussions over the next year and a half when DOT unveils exactly the details of the sidewalk cafe and the street program.
So Jutan, what you are saying then is that the discussion about streets is really not contained in the text, the zoning text change proposed by DCP?
Correct.
And that the zoning text change only concerns the jurisdiction of the sidewalk cafes?
Yes, and the proposed text before you is really just removing the zoning text regarding the sidewalk cafes. In the zoning
Thank you.
resolution. And then also giving Department of.
That's not entirely correct, Bob. So let me, if I may, assume for the sake of argument, it is as.
Well, Chuck, you need to identify where the administrative change from agency to agency for the roadways is going to occur and where is it actionable for us?
We haven't seen it. That's the
Okay,
whole point.
so how could we vote on what we haven't seen?
That's the whole point. That's exactly on the.
But how
premature-
will this preclude a consideration of that, Chuck? I mean, we haven't, they haven't.
Let me explain to you what the problem here is. There are two different types, obviously, of outdoor dining. One on the sidewalk, which is the popular European theme.
Yeah, we've established that at issue with the sidewalk.
It's not, and that's the whole point. The whole point here is that what you're going to have with the removal of this as a first step, you're going to have an omnibus kind of approach, which nobody knows what it's going to contain. You have no clue at all. For example, the comment was DOT will replace the Department of Consumer Affairs. And Jutan told you a few moments ago, and DOT told us at the meeting, that they will be working on a proposal. But at the moment, they're all run by Consumer Affairs. Why? Why the change?
So Chuck, you're concerned about the accrual of future jurisdiction, that the camel's nose, that this opens a jurisdictional opportunity for DOT that we haven't seen with regard to streets, but you're concerned as inviting further action down the road, which Jutan just told us we're going to get. Is that fair?
All I'm concerned about is I'd like at least the beginning of the whole package. I hate surprises.
Okay, so you're afraid of segmentation. Yeah, this happening and then something else. I got it.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Dan.
Thanks, Laura. So I voted for this resolution for a few reasons. One, I too agree that DOT should not take over the responsibilities of DCA, especially since we don't have anything from DOT regarding the plan. Second, my concern with removing this from the text provision is the security that we have or the protection that we have in this being in the zoning resolution. It's a layer of protection for our community, and I don't think that should be removed. Lastly, with regards to the businesses, Nick, I appreciate everything that you're doing and you're clearly advocating for the businesses here. I get that, but I'm also confident that our city government, between our legislatures and our executive, will extend and will do whatever they have to do for our businesses to extend the current provisions and the current executive order should they need to. So for those reasons, I'm voting for the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Julia?
With all due respect to everyone on the call, I'm going to move that we go to vote because we
Yeah.
spent a lot of time talking about this. My phone battery's dying and I've got to get up at 6 to get to work in the morning. I don't have the luxury of staying on the call until 11. So I respectfully ask that we vote.
I second that.
Everybody, yes, I think everybody's had a chance.
that.
I think everybody's had a chance to speak once. And so we will take a vote now. I just want to read the be it resolved because there might have been a little bit lost there. We have a new be it resolved. Community Board 8 at a duly convened and noticed public meeting determined by overwhelming majority vote of its members that the proposed Department of City Planning zoning text change should be rejected as premature and open to more questions and concerns than it usefully addresses. So that is what we are voting on. And can we now have a roll call? Kieran or Lisa?
Okay, so, right, we'll do this by roll call. We'll start from the top. If you approve or do not
Approve
approve.
the resolution or not? I think it's better, right, Lisa, to do a roll call? I think it's just two.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so Sylvia Alexander. Sylvia, are you here? We will, oh, right, so everyone remember to mute yourself.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you, Sylvia. Constance Barnes,
Yes.
thank you. Bob Bender,
Yes.
thank you. Kelly Buford,
Yes.
thank you. Christopher Calhoun,
Yes.
thank you. Joyce Campbell Pruter,
Yes.
thank you. Sebastian Titolopoli,
Yes.
thank you. Did Courtney Dastis Galvin join us? No. Lisa Dowd, yes. It's me. Margaret Della,
Yes.
thank you. Margaret Donato, Margaret,
Yes.
thank you. Paul Ellis,
Yes.
thank you. Diamaris Escanio Bell. Dio,
Yes.
thank you. Moses Sesema,
Great discussion and yes.
thank you. Bob Fanuzzi,
I'm abstaining.
abstain. Nick Fazio,
No.
no. Steve Fruit, did you join us? No. David Gelman,
Yes.
yes. Rosemary, I'm sure did not join us. Julia Gomez,
No.
Marvin Goodman,
Yes.
Ed Green,
Yes.
thank you. Robert Jaklowski,
Yes.
thank you. Did Asfali Jimenez join us? No. Myra Joyce,
Yes.
thank you. Bob Kaplan,
Yes.
Thank you. Did Luis Lopez join us? Okay, Chuck Murtha?
Yes.
Thank you. Did Ted Morris join us? Okay, Omar Murray?
Yes.
Thank you. Dan Paternak?
Yes.
Thank you. Tracy Pardo, did you join us? Okay, Karen Pesh? Karen? We will come back. Rita Popderlo?
Yes.
Okay. Julie Reyes?
Yes.
Yes, Georgia Santiago? Georgia, are you to unmute? Okay, we'll come back.
Karen was just on, Lisa.
Okay, Karen, are you voting for the
Yes.
resolution?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thank you. Ramdat Singh?
Yes.
Thank you. Laura Spalter?
Yes.
Great. Camelia Tepoulis?
No.
No. Deb Travis?
No.
Okay, Jill Towns? Jill?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Jill.
Aye.
Stephen Vasquez?
Yes.
Thank you. Sergio Villaverde?
Negative.
Okay, Marty Wolpoff?
Yes.
Great, thank you. The motion passes. You want to count, but it passed, and we will, all the votes will be in the minutes.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chuck. Okay, public safety is next. Ed. Ed?
Hey,
Okay.
sorry about that. Okay, so we have a couple of resolutions. Is the 50th still on the call? 50th precinct still here?
Yes, they
Yes,
are.
you are, Ed. Hey, first of all, Commanding Officer Gervin, congratulations on your promotion. I'm very happy to work with you.
Appreciate that, Ed.
We had I know you guys had a prior engagement, so this was the first time I've been there that you guys didn't have anybody representing the 50th at the meeting, but we did have one question for you with regards to one renewal application, just whether there was any issues at a specific location, which was Kale Bar and Grill at 3638 Bailey Avenue.
What's that?
Kale Bar and Grill at 3638 Bailey Avenue.
No, there was just noise. No, but that was when they came outside.
We haven't had any incidents there. We've had some concerns about some noise in regards to the outside dining, but no criminal activity as per our community affairs officers.
Thank you. Okay, so we had two resolutions, one renewal and one new application. The first renewal was for Kaye Bar and Grill located at 3638 Bailey Avenue. And the committee approved that unanimously, and it was kind of pending any bombs that may have been dropped on us at a later date from the 50th regarding information that we didn't have available that night. And the other one is a new application for the College of Mount St. Vincent, located at 6301 Riverdale Avenue. And this is a new application, and the Public Safety Committee unanimously approved this application as well. And I would suggest that we vote, can we vote for both of these, Madam Chair, at the in one vote rather than split it up?
That's sure. I mean, we see that it was a unanimous vote on your committee. So we're looking at those two liquor licenses. And I don't believe any complaints have come to the board about either to our attention, which is good. Anyone opposed to renewing or beginning the liquor license, please raise your hand. Okay, let me just make sure. Let me get in here. Participants. Okay, seeing no hands, is there anyone abstaining from regarding these liquor licenses? Okay, so then it's deemed approved unanimously. Thank you very much, Ed. Thank you.
Laura,
Next.
could
Yeah.
I interrupt to ask Ed
Sure.
and the captain to pay attention to an issue? Johnson Avenue, during the busy periods of time, as I mentioned earlier, is now becoming a very dangerous place for both pedestrians and vehicles. Can I ask that the committee and the 5-0 pay attention to that and stop the double parking alongside the roadway?
Johnson and where, Chuck? Where's the cross?
Johnson Avenue. It's double parking in the center of the street alongside of the roadway restaurants.
Okay,
We'll
I guess
follow
that's
up.
duly noted.
We'll follow up with the 50th precinct
Thank you.
on that area specific.
Okay. Thank you all. All right, we'll move on.
Margaret's hand is up.
Excuse me, Lisa?
Margaret Della's hand is up.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Go ahead, Margaret.
Thanks. I had a question, I guess for the Public Safety Committee, regarding the discussion with land use on the location of where survivors can come in our district. And I was wondering if that was something that was discussed at the public safety meeting to ensure that victims and survivors in our community and in other community board districts have a place to go. And I was wondering if that was a topic discussed.
Margaret, it was not discussed, and I would appreciate it if you forwarded me any information or contacted me about any concerns you might have regarding this matter, because I'd be glad to bring it up at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, at the meeting, Lieutenant Andreoli commented that they would have a separate entrance for survivors and complainants, victims and complainants, from the main entrance to the facility. They are apparently quite well aware of the need to keep separation and care.
Thank you, Chuck. And once again, yeah, Margaret, please reach out to me for that. I'd be glad to bring that up and raise awareness about that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to do the clock check. It's approaching 9 o'clock and we're moving right along. Okay, traffic and transportation. Deb.
Hi, everybody. I think I may also be doing environment and sanitation together since
I'm
we just
here,
did the
Deb.
joint meeting.
I am here.
Okay.
Do you want to do environment and sanitation, Bob?
If you don't mind, I'd like to lead off and then Deb, you take the details of the meeting. So yesterday, the Traffic and Transportation Committee and the Environment and Sanitation Committee held a joint meeting. And Deb Travis, the new chair, reached out to me over the summer to plan such a meeting because it involved the flooding risk of the Major Deegan Expressway through Van Cortlandt Park. And lo and behold, Hurricane Ida brought us incredible and deadly evidence of the dangers of storm hurricanes and floodplains. So the Major Deegan Expressway, as many of you know, was underwater. This was a crisis of, I'm not overusing this word, epic proportion. Lives could have been lost. More importantly, as Deb has pointed out, this was an evacuation route for the city of New York. And the city is not secure without an evacuation route. We held this meeting because we feel this is a top priority for the city of New York and for the state. Deb, I'll let you handle the DOT part, but I want to thank my fellow committee member Karen Argenti for co-chairing. I've had in the middle of a personal family emergency, so they stepped in for me. And the upshot is that DOT was shocked and surprised they learned as much about this as they ever had from coming to our community board meeting. DEP came because they are involved in, as you know, daylighting, and many of pictures show the water overflowing from Van Cortlandt Lake down the CSX property. Literally, it's called daylighting itself. Okay, so from what I understand, our committees have issued a request of OEM, state DOT, and city DEP to come back in 2 months with a plan for safeguarding this flood-prone area. So we're going to review and keep on this. We just want the community to know that this is for our committee top of mind. It's a city security issue. And I really thank Deb for stepping forward to bring this to attention. Deb, you can handle the Palisades issue too. I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah.
My second issue.
May I interrupt, Bob, please?
Yes, Jack, I just, yeah.
Something
Okay.
you've never heard me do before in all these years. We have to congratulate and compliment city planning. That, for me, is unusual. In that, Juton and the Bronx office pointed out to the problems on the Major Deegan when we had that floodplain resolution
I
some
remember.
months back. And Juton went to great pains to point out that there is some evidence of a danger there. So I would recommend when you do take it to the next step, you include city planning.
And Juton, we'll have this discussion offline, but you know my concerns about the floodplain regs and actually augmenting impervious space and creating more runoff. For me, the issue is more green, more green, more green to absorb more runoff, as well as daylighting. But that definitely city planning has a new zoning regulation for floodplain building. And I just need everybody to caution about building along the floodplain. Building in the floodplain is never conducive, never mitigates flooding. So secondly, another big issue. I'm going to be referring to something called Tier 4. And this is a shorthand. It's a shorthand for a new program that was created by the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act of 2019. Now, for those of you who need a little refresher on this, last February, I had the Director of Climate Change for the state of New York to our ENS meeting. We were informed that the state has created a new law that has renewable energy targets, okay? And these are massive and ambitious renewable energy targets that are designed to free us from coal emissions. We were told to expect industry help with this. And lo and behold, NYSERDA, which is a public authority that generates proposals for contracts for building renewable energy, has issued an RFP, request for proposals, for private companies to build renewable energy transmission lines, facilities, converter stations from Albany to Queens. And most communities are in the dark about this because it's being handled as a bid process to private companies. And this is something that all our committees should be aware of. It has massive land use implications because whatever proposal they do choose to build renewable energy facilities from Albany to Queens will likely either go through the river, along the river, make landfall somewhere in the Bronx, and finally make landfall in Queens. And these are energy generation facilities that do not belong in densely populated urban neighborhoods. So I've been involved in this through another organization for most of the summer. I did want to bring to everybody's attention that you should all look very carefully at the NYSERDA website about these different proposals. And each of them have a different plan or siting proposal that has a different land use implications. And the state, I'm sorry, NYSERDA, which is a state public authority, will be making a selection. We won't know what the process is, and we won't know what the proposal is, the winning proposal is. One of these proposals, called Excelsior,
I accidentally muted you while trying to mute someone else. I'm sorry.
I just was saying about the proposals. There is a vacuum of public information about this. Individual companies are sorting out, making proposals about where these things should occur in the Bronx. One of them does include Van Cortlandt Park. One of them does have a proposal to put something big in Van Cortlandt Park. It's called Excelsior. Take a look at it. We don't have any information more about this. There is no timeline for when the winning proposal will be chosen. When they do choose the proposal, it will have secret review, Chuck, so it will have environmental impact statement attached to it. But we will only be gauging or hearing what NYSERDA actually chooses. I'm going to come back to this in future meetings. Take a look, everybody, at NYSERDA Tier 4. Learn about the siting and the proposal to build these renewable energy transmission lines and converter stations, both in rivers and on land, and they're coming to our borough. Lastly, I wanted to say thank you to Council Member Eric Dinowitz. He held a curbside recycling outreach event, and over the summer, Department of Sanitation has had regained federal funding for curbside organic recycling, but communities have to sign up. So if your building, if your organization, please mute, has interest in holding such an event and building support for signups to get organic recycling, please call the community board office and we'll put you in touch with sanitation. They need a critical mass of local residents to want curbside organic recycling and to build a route basically that's feasible for labor and for the trucks. So reach out to us. There's a rolling deadline. The deliveries, the service starts in October. And I want to thank Councilman Dinowitz again for doing that. That was a lot, everybody. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. We now move to Deb for the TNT piece of that.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. So in the interest of time, I'm going to start with our resolution. I have one resolution from our June meeting. In June, DOT presented the committee with a plan to install an enhanced crosswalk at Greystone Avenue and 242nd Street. The crosswalk would connect existing curb cuts, which were installed by the Parks Department, and would eliminate 2 parking spots. The committee rejected the plan on the basis that it would result in the loss of 2 parking spaces where there are other options to recover these spaces. Essentially, we felt as though it wasn't really fully considered. And so, and not that the benefits did not outweigh the loss of the spaces. So therefore, I move that the board approve the following resolution. Whereas the New York City Department of Transportation presented a plan to the Traffic and Transportation Committee for an enhanced crosswalk on the south side of the intersection at Greystone Avenue and West 242nd Street. Whereas the New York City DOT proposes to install a painted crosswalk at this location without a traffic control device at the intersection. Whereas the enhanced crosswalk would eliminate 2 parking spots. And whereas the committee believed further study of the intersection could recapture the eliminated parking spots while still providing a safer right-of-way, be it resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 rejects the New York City DOT Greystone Avenue Enhanced Crosswalk Plan. I should also add that the DOT back in June said that they intended to proceed regardless of our resolution. I believe they intended to proceed over the summer. However, a sinkhole opened up basically in the exact location of where the enhanced crosswalk would be. And so as of Sunday, when I was there, the sinkhole has still not been repaired. It's been referred to DEP to address. And so the crosswalk has not been installed yet. So this resolution is not moot, which is an issue that came up at exec.
Thank you, Deb. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Let me check hands.
I think Chuck has his hand up from before.
Okay, Chuck, is your hand up for this?
No,
resolution?
no, it's from before.
Okay, David Gelman?
Yes, I just would note that the purpose of the crosswalk, while enhanced is questionable, the purpose of the crosswalk was to paint the crosswalk from one side to the other, because on the other side, there is a curb cut that people constantly park in front of. So the intention would be to highlight that. And in the process, I recommended that in a swap, that 2 spaces could be gained further north by a no standing zone that's not necessary, and that the loss of 1, possibly 2 parking spaces for this crosswalk would be played off against each other. And that's why I voted in opposition. And as I noted in exec, there are 2 L's in Gelman. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Seeing no further hands or discussion, we'll call the question. Okay. If you are opposed to this resolution, please raise your hand. Okay, I see Camelia and David. Okay.
You spoke.
If you are abstaining, well, is anyone abstaining? Please raise your hand. Okay. The motion is deemed approved. You have the votes. You've recorded the votes, Lisa, Kira? Okay.
Yes, we have them. Thank you.
Okay.
And at least 1 member left, but we're tracking.
Right. Okay. Julia is leaving. Okay.
Just to finish.
Sure, continue.
Sorry. So last week, we also learned that Ruth Mullen was tragically killed by an express bus in front of her home on Johnson Avenue, as has been stated earlier in the meeting. We send our condolences to her family. She had requested for many years that a traffic light be placed at the intersection where she herself was struck, and the TNT committee will take up a discussion of safety at this corner at our October meeting, which has been requested by several folks in the community. And then finally, at the most recent call, we discussed the Kapok Palisade corner and the impact of storm runoff this summer at 2727 Palisade, which you saw the really graphic video at the beginning of this call. During the call yesterday, we heard the impassioned demands from residents for a complete rethinking of this intersection. DOT has said that they will reopen the book on this, and we're very excited about that. I look forward to working with DOT. I look forward to DOT working with DEP to ensure that the residents' issues are addressed. Regarding the request by the residents at 2727 Palisade Avenue for the complete removal of the existing sidewalk, I think, as was brought up at the beginning of the meeting, I think it is a mistake to demand a specific solution, sidewalk removal, when what you really want is a specific outcome, which is protection from stormwater runoff. That's really my only issue. I understand that 2 years into this, people are frustrated and emotions are running very high, and that the damage experienced this summer was for many the realization of their fears, and that's completely justified. This summer we experienced unprecedented rain for sure, and far more than Hurricane Sandy. And I prefer to be forward focused and solution focused, and I support DEP and DOT focusing on whatever means is necessary to make Palisade Avenue more resilient. If they study this corner and they determine that the best solution is the complete removal of the sidewalk while also taking public safety into consideration, I fully support that effort. So I just wanted to say that for the record, and I am done. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. And for other updates, I refer you to our minutes, and our next meeting will be October 21st at 7 p.m.
Dan, your hand is up.
Yeah, Deb, just I guess the first thing with obviously Ruth, I mean, that's horrible. You said that she had been requesting, she was requesting from DOT a traffic light for years. Is that what was reported?
That was my understanding. Yes, that's what I've heard. But I obviously did not hear that receive those requests directly, and you would certainly would know better.
Well, I know from the community board, we certainly, or at least TNT did not. That's why I was curious as to like where those had gone. And if it was a DOT thing that you were referring to.
I mean, I haven't spoken to DOT about any of this issues. I only heard it through, I think through just the news coverage that I read. So if that's in error, then I retract.
Gotcha. Okay, so no, I was curious about that. The second, just look on Kapok Palisade, for the new members, I know there's 6 new members. I was the former chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee. So I lived with the beginning of the Kapok Palisade issue and I followed it through with the last 2 years. When it came to our community board, it was a DOT request. And I just want to give a little bit of background so the new members can understand what the issue is. I see Mary Sari is still on the call and she gave a very impassioned speech and plea to the board earlier in the meeting. And I think the new members need to understand the issue a little bit better. So you understand the context of why the community is asking to restore the intersection to what it was beforehand. When DOT came, we were very concerned with runoff, and that's shown through our resolution. And we asked DOT to do a crosswalk as a green street. When they started building, and they did this in lightning speed, this was built, faster than any project I've ever seen DOT do in this community board. And when they started building, I think everybody started seeing the breadth and scope of what these, landing pads would look like and what this concrete would look like. At that point, the community started coming out. At that point, they asked DOT to stop the construction. They asked DOT to rethink the project. DOT moved forward. At that point, then Chair Rosemary Ginty and myself worked with Mary, Robert Harrington, and Lou Wunderlich, residents of the neighborhoods, in a working committee to do a joint effort with DOT, who said that they were open to changes. They were open to new thoughts about it. That was 2 years ago. Since that time, what we did as a working group was come up with a new concept. We presented it to the TNT committee. We presented it to DOT. We presented it to former DOT Commissioner Polly Trottenberg. Polly Trottenberg had come up. She visited the site. She wanted to work on changing the intersection also. She then left. When she left DOT, a lot of things did slow down. I will say this. DOT did not approve of the design that we put forward, and we have that for board members to look at. What DOT did do was to say that they would pull up some of the concrete, leaving the curb design the way it was, and put in essentially some grass or dirt area, eliminating some of the concrete was on the pads. Our concern was that the runoff would still continue because it was a funnel situation. And anyone that saw the pictures saw that, a funnel was being created directly at 2727. The other thing that was happening, and when they built this thing, is they eliminated the water from going to the 2 catch basins on the east side of the street. That's why they're getting so much water over there, because the water is being funneled to their building. What I myself, as a board member, having lived with this issue, having seen all these pictures, having worked so much, I agree with the residents at this point. It's been 2 years. We've been trying to work with DOT. Given the damage, this is 2 storms. Those buildings have endured, 1.5 feet of water in their lobby. Just think about that being in your lobby. Think about coming home to that. Think about having to pay for that within your co-op. At this point, the only real solution is to restore the intersection to what it was. And I'm going to support the residents any way I can. As a community board member, as an individual resident of this community, I will help those folks in that building. And I think every board member should do the same. And this isn't about, working with an agency or not at this point. This has been 2 years. And think about living with this for 2 years in your building. We need to support these residents and we need to restore this intersection. Mary Sari, thank you to you. Thank you to Lou. Thank you to Robert for all of your hard work the last 2 years. You guys have been amazing, and watching your advocacy is inspiring. So thank you so much, Mary. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dan. I see Jill and David Gelman. That's Jill.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, I moved into this community very close to that intersection in 2004. I don't know what validity there is to whether or not Ruth was part of it, but I remember that a bunch of us came to the community board to ask for a light at that intersection. And I don't know what year it was, but what we got was a stop sign, or maybe 2, I don't know, but I know there was an improvement after we had protested repeatedly about the dangers of that intersection. So to Dan's point, I don't know that the community board pressed for that, but I do know that this community pressed for it. And we came to the community board to a meeting of the Transportation Committee in order to do that. And again, I don't know the exact details. I don't know if Ruth was involved, but I suspect that she could have been because it was just a bunch of neighbors who were very concerned about having to run through that intersection to do anything and everything. So that's what I want to say.
I actually just want to interject for a second, Jill. I think we're talking about two different intersections, just to be clear.
No, I'm talking about what Deb was talking about, I think, when she was talking about Ruth.
Yeah.
And I think someone said that they weren't sure that the community board was a part of that. And what I'm saying is that as a group of citizens that live at that intersection and that had to go there to use the buses or to go to the mall at Knowles Crescent or whatever we did approach the community board some years ago. Can't say exactly when. I've been living here since 2004. If anybody knows when that stop sign was put up, it was after we protested repeatedly about the dangers. So yes, Deb, there was some involvement that could have involved Ruth. I don't know who the neighbors were at this point.
Also, yeah, thank you, Jill, for bringing that up. I looked really quickly in my email, Dan, and just to answer your question, I've got a couple of constituent emails from residents nearby who talk about Ruth's work, and I'm sure they were working with Jill as well. So it was really helpful, Jill, to have that additional background. So thank you on that.
Jill. Thanks for that input. We have David and then Sergio.
Well, Deb, you had your hand up before I did. Did you get to complete your thought?
Oh, the only thing I wanted to add was that on a site visit that I made a couple of weeks ago to the Kapok Palisade corner, this is to go to the Kapok Palisade corner, back to that intersection. I do think it's important to mention that the curb is in front of the building, offers it absolutely no protection. And so I don't want that to get lost in what's happening on the other side of the street, which is that the curb is, probably less than an inch high because the street has been clearly repaved and repaved and repaved, and it's come up to meet it. So I do think that there's some things that can be done to keep the water on the street. And those efforts, I hope they'll consider as well. And as I said, like whatever DEP and DOT, when they get into discussions about the stormwater, I mean, I am not a hydrologist and I am not a civil engineer. And I am really happy that they've agreed to reopen the book on this and to take another look. So that's all I want to say.
Okay, doing a
Thank you,
time
David.
check, it's 9:20. Please bear that in mind as we try to move forward. Who are we up to? David?
Yes, thank you. As the only board member who lives within walking distance of the Palisade Kapok intersection, I specifically asked to be on that working group meeting and was denied. And the community members that were mentioned are good neighbors of mine, but they all live in that one building. And so the community perspective was not brought into play. I do find it rather interesting that this conversation was bookended with the beginning talking about literally the other end of Kapok Street at Johnson Avenue, and that there is a need for greater traffic control. And at the Palisade end of it, there's discussion about how the traffic control issues that narrowed the intersection and made it safer with crosswalks was excessive, and that the line should be drawn back to make it easier to get around the corners. I would also note that the changes that were made, had they not been changed, all that water would have gone directly, would have been funneled directly into the driveway of 2727, not even getting a chance to bounce off the curbs, which are minimal and sunk, but they would have gone directly in there. And what I have said last night at the meeting and since the very beginning, going along with where Deb was headed, I encourage DOT to work with DEP, and I talked about it with Chair Fanuzzi, that we should green the hell out of those two areas so that we can have bioswales and whatnot to draw water off immediately into the sewer system. But that changing it from white concrete to blacktop the way it was before is not going to change from a storm like Ira that flooded out the Major Deegan with more than 4 feet of water, which had never happened. This was a bizarre storm of immense proportions of rain. Thank you.
So David,
we have two more hands. I ask you to please be brief. Sergio, thank you, David. Sergio.
Yes, I have an unrelated traffic issue I'd like to quickly raise. The 236th Street Broadway to Kingsbridge Avenue was closed by the 50th precinct sometime in 2020. I'm not sure if that came to the board as a permanent street closure or not, but I would like an inquiry to be made about that. Thank you.
Thank you. We
Thank
have
you,
that,
Sergio.
somebody took note. We have that address.
Yeah, I can,
Okay,
I can
great.
look into that, Sergio.
Okay, thanks. Sylvia.
I was on the TNT committee, and part of the discussion when 2727 was discussed as far as the large sidewalks that were installed. It is very important to note, and I don't know if the board knows or it's part of the discussion. However, I have friends in that building. They have been there for over 30 years. The water runoff never went into their driveway. It went into the catch basins. And if the sidewalks had not been built out the way they did, unbeknownst to anyone in the middle of the night, then you wouldn't have the situation at 2727. I think that sending a letter to, I don't know who you were going to send it to, Deborah, as far as getting some action on this is unheard of in relation to the people who are now in sewage up to their eyeballs. It isn't just the lobby that's underwater, it's also some apartments that are below grade level, who are the ones that have the sewage. And for them to wait until you get a response from a letter, rather than have DOT come in and try to undo what they did, because there was no runoff before that. The catch basins were able to do it. I understand that it was a very big storm. I understand there was rain and the runoff. Everything that is being said is true. However, there has to be a different solution than making these people wait and to live the way they do in the meantime. I don't understand why a letter is being sent, because I don't think that that's the right action.
So Sylvia, just to be clear, the board office, the folks at 2727 Palisade, the original folks on the working group, and myself have all been speaking to DOT, and frankly, they've also been speaking to the city commissioner for the Department of Transportation. So there's immediate action that's happening, but then we also wanted to formalize it. One of the things I think that the previous working group didn't do very well was to bring things back to the committee, which is what it's supposed to serve, in order to just simply, to get the committee buy-in and to then come forward with something a little more formal. That's really where I'm coming from with the letter. But that doesn't mean that we're not also taking additional efforts to, to be proactive, for sure. So just to respond to that.
So Laura,
Yeah.
I'd like to comment on that last.
Wait.
Sorry. Yeah.
I can't, you know what? The hour is now 9:30.
No, but I understand, but it's an important point regarding.
Everybody spoke once.
There is an important point
I
regarding
can't.
the
I love you, but I
legislation that
just
was
can't.
responded back. No, I
Everybody had
understand.
an opportunity to speak
I didn't
once.
speak. I didn't.
Oh, that's Rita.
Okay,
That's
Rita, I didn't see your hand.
I'm trying to figure out how to get it so you see my hand.
Okay, Rita.
My
go ahead,
fasting
because
was
I believe everybody should speak once. So please, okay.
Mine's
Rita.
just a reminder thing that about 5622 Fieldston, where we keep asking to have a light, one of the beeping lights for the blind person that lives there. Just a reminder that if anything's being done about that.
Kira, is that on our list?
Yeah, what the city is right now just waiting for a contract to start to get those installed. So
We need
it's
to
on the
move a little
study has
faster,
been done. We've asked for it to be expedited. They just gave me that update on Friday.
Okay, keep following up, please, because this young man almost died. His seeing eye dog saved him.
I will
Just keep that
certainly
in
do
mind.
that.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rita.
Laura, could I say something very quickly? I was on the meeting last night and I raised my hand like a good person does, and I was never called on. The person that from 2727 who has the sewage in her apartment wanted to speak a second time, and she was told that she could not. Now, in the middle of the conversation, you're telling Dan that he can't speak, where he was the chair of the committee and knows more than anyone else. I think that whatever he says or needs to say should be heard. I don't think this is really very fair, regardless of the time frame.
Well, for many of us, I have gotten a lot of complaints. People have to go to work tomorrow. We still have executive committee session to go into, Sylvia, and I am trying to be fair, and I'm trying to do
doesn't
everything
sound
the
like it's
same.
fair.
You know what? I see Rosemary. Have you joined?
Yes, I
Great.
have.
Okay, Rosemary.
Okay, thank you. I was just, I just this minute was able to get in, and you are on, I can tell, on 2727
Yes.
Palisade and the disaster that DOT has visited on this community. I will be brief. I did speak last night at the meeting. This is an issue that this community board has taken a position on, and we have cited and worked with this community for months to come up with an answer to what DOT did to them. DOT put a ton of concrete down there. They have rechanneled the water, as I said last night, to put a target on 2727. DOT messed this up. They have to fix it. And we, as a community board, as we have stood with them, should continue to stand with this community and fight this issue. I haven't felt so serious about an issue in a long time. This is a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary.
note the
I see
chief
no further
operating
hands. Excuse me?
The chief operating officer of DOT lives in this community in the Fieldston area.
Well, he won't be able to live here very long if this doesn't get fixed. Okay, I would like to make a statement now. I'm wary of the time, and I'd like to relinquish the chair to Bob Bender for a minute, okay? I think it's very fair to evaluate impacts at this 2-year mark. What's clear to me is that this is a disaster. Stormwater is not being captured or diverted to storm drains or green infrastructure. Whatever conditions were there before worked perfectly during hurricanes for decades. And my belief is what's there is so flawed, it can't remain, it can't be fixed. We talk about DEP and infrastructure and catch basins, that will take 20 years for them to do that. The time has passed, for that action. I urge these buildings, not that we say we shouldn't work with DEP and they shouldn't work with DEP, but that is 20 years. I urge these buildings to file a notice of claim for dangerous condition with the city. The controller's office and the corporation council must receive documentation, which is tons, 311 complaints, photos, within 90 days. And that will make the city take notice. So that is my statement, that is my comment. Deb, is there anything else on your report?
Thankfully, no.
Okay. All right, our next is youth. I'm sorry that Julia left. Okay.
We are no longer young, so.
Yes, and we're aging rapidly. Oh, by the way, I have to take the chair back from Bob. Sadly, I have to say, okay. Aging committee, we are aging. Dan.
We are, I'll be very brief. We had a presentation from Alana Kiefer of New York Academy of Medicine. She showed us Image NYC, which is a great planning tool for the aging community. We're off to start with our committee, and we'll be planning for the year and just providing as much information as we can. Thanks so much, Laura. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. David, budget.
Yes, thank you. I will be brief too. I welcome the new members to the board, and for them, I'll do a very quick overview of our budget cycle. 10 weeks ago, we started fiscal year 2022. Back last winter and spring, each of the committees brought forward their suggestions for priorities for both capital budget and expense budget. It was combined. I took a first cut at it in terms of a community-wide list, and we discussed it at the exec meeting in May, and the priorities were shuffled around by the chairs to mutual agreement. And then the process was turned over to Kira, to speak with, to try to combine similar projects together where possible, and to speak with the agencies to talk with them about what was already in progress. And she did a very good job of culling them down from something like 70 down to about 55 or so. And so it was a usable list. Over the summer, in consultation with a couple of chairs, Kira and Laura, revised the list somewhat. It was presented to the officers last month, and then early last week, the executive committee got a chance to look at the list as it stands right now. I imagine we will send it out at the end of this month or beginning of next month to all members of the community board in advance of our annual budget hearing, which will be immediately preceding our October meeting of the community board, which is probably around the 10th or so of October. We'll get that date, but each community board member will get a list of our priorities. The community will have a chance to give their opinions on those priorities in the budget hearing, and during the following, immediately following community board meeting, we as a group will vote on those priorities to present to the city and the agencies. And then we will, over this coming winter, we will start the cycle for fiscal year 2024. So that's where we are right now. I welcome any questions, but or if you prefer, you can contact me directly. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Nick, Economic Development.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome the newest board members to our team. Looking forward to working with you all. I also want to congratulate Captain Gervin, if he's still on, for his appointment to the 50th precinct. Looking forward to working with him as well. Please refer to our minutes from our June meeting. One of the biggest highlights was Domenico Ciacchio from Ridgewood Savings Bank accepted our invitation and joined our meeting to discuss the impending closure of the branch at 3899 Sedgwick Avenue, which I think you all know, as Chair Spalter announced at the executive committee meeting, it has been, is now going to remain open. So thanks to the work of the board and the Economic Development Committee, Chair Spalter, the staff, New York State Department of Financial Services, Ish Gonzalez and Tom Lacania. And Ish, if you're still on, you can unblock my number now. I'll stop calling you. Marlene from Centron from BOEDC. I'll have to let her know she can unblock my number as well. Clarence Stanley, who's always been a tremendous advocate for this board and for our district, also helped us. And the branch is going to remain open. And the committee, the board office, and of course, Laura spent a great deal of time. I just want to point out that Julia Gomez was instrumental in getting the ball rolling for the committee back in June, doing quite a bit of research, both qualitatively and quantitatively. And on several occasions this summer, Chair Gomez and our board chair, Laura Spalter, took time from their personal professional responsibilities to handle matters that required immediate attention. And this endeavor was extremely time sensitive, and their respective roles were pivotal. DFS will be at our meeting to discuss the program, the Banking Development District program. This program will essentially designate the area around Ridgewood Bank as an underbanked area. Please come September 23rd. And if you have any questions and specific details about the program, and DFS representatives will be there to answer those questions. This afternoon, it was my pleasure, I'm sorry, this morning, it was my pleasure to participate in a ribbon cutting for Ridgewood Savings Bank's grand opening on 328 East 204th Street. While some financial institutions are running away and leaving neighborhoods behind, Ridgewood has clearly demonstrated its commitment to the Northwest Bronx. As far as what we're dealing with now, there's a lot that the businesses are dealing. The SBA has activated the disaster relief loan program in our area. Any businesses impacted by Hurricane Ida should go to the SBA website and follow the steps to get recovery assistance. And we can assist businesses if they don't know where to apply. Number two, the merchant community is now responsible for screening vaccination status of their customers. If new mandates and new screening requirements are unclear to any of our businesses, please reach out to us. And I want to thank Tanya, who also helped out this summer getting some information for the Ridgewood application on flushing out some of the details on the requirements for our businesses that reached out to us with questions and concerns. As you all know, the fines are excessive, and this is yet another burden on the small business community, and in particular our local small businesses that might not have the operational capacity to fulfill their obligations. But we are going to be here to assist them and support them.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm not finished, sorry. I want to commend Cecilio Bolinas, proprietor of Metate Restaurant on Johnson Avenue, for contributing to the beautification of our community by adopting a tree put on Johnson Avenue. Please go to Metate and check out and congratulate Cecilio for his contribution. It's another example of how our small business is contribute to the betterment of our community. Financial Literacy Day of Manhattan College, they were going to be at our next meeting. Unfortunately, we had to postpone that event that was scheduled for October 4th because of concerns of the Delta variant. Professor Anabi and Professor Farley of Manhattan College worked diligently this summer to put together something that's really unique for the small businesses of our district. They will have an interactive website that will be serviceable for our small businesses starting in October, and they will give us a presentation at the October 28th meeting. Next meeting, as I mentioned, is September 23rd at 7:30 on Zoom. We will have DFS, Department of Financial Services. We will also have a local entrepreneur to discuss some of the challenges, and we hope that this is going to be an ongoing thing where we get a local business owner from the community to come and speak to us at each meeting. A new merchant resident, Best Buy, has reached out to us as well and has expressed their intention of working with the community from some of the priorities and issues that we feel they can help us with. So they will be there as well. They are interested in hearing our ideas, so I encourage you to come. And I will also suggest to the committee that we bring up the outdoor dining establishment, the discussion on the long-term plan that we had this evening, and it was at the Land Use Committee as well. And I want to invite anyone that is interested in that or anybody that spoke this evening so that we can continue to hash out these details so that we can create a more effective long-term plan moving forward for our small business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick, and congratulations on that big win with Ridgewood Bank, and congratulations to the whole committee. We have health, hospitals, and social services.
Madam Chair, I do have my hand up.
Oh.
Nick, I have a question for you. Have you heard anything from the merchants, particularly along Broadway, with regard to damages from Ida? I do know someone who has a business on Broadway and said that he lost an enormous amount of inventory, which was in the basement of the building due to the flooding. And I'm just wondering if you've heard other reports from other merchants.
I have not as of yet, but if you could put that merchant in touch with us so that we can get them in touch with SBA so that they can take advantage of the disaster relief program that's in place, because our entire district is within the bailiwick of that program that was recently designated by the Small Business Administration.
Also,
so they're entitled to some relief for the damages.
Right, also send any information to Bob Fanuzzi. Bob. Okay, moving on, Sylvia, Education, Libraries, and Cultural Affairs. Sylvia? Okay, we'll circle back. Health, hospitals, and social.
No, I'm right here.
Oh, okay,
Somebody
sorry.
muted me, not I.
Okay.
I
go,
guess I
go,
was
Sylvia.
too vocal. The schools opened on September 13th. It seems that the amount of children that have across the city are smaller amount, only 82%, as opposed to 90 in 19 and 89 in 18. I think that parents are still very nervous about sending their children to school in person. I understand that there are ventilators in every classroom. I don't know if that's totally true. They are wearing masks. They do have the distancing when they have the space, which is not good enough, and the sanitizers. There's a teacher shortage because teachers are not coming back to school. It is a disaster. I know that Mayor de Blasio is rah-rahing his efforts to get the schools in person. However, I don't know what city he lives in because it's not New York City. Well, Laura, I lost Laura, but
No. I had to get some water.
Our next meeting,
to choke.
our next meeting is on October 26th.
Thank you, Sylvia. Now we have health, hospitals, and social services. Omar?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. And first and foremost, I want to welcome the new board members. And I want to express many thanks to our new governor and our state legislator for the outstanding job that they have done for the rent moratorium and also for the opens meeting law. Now, we did not have a September meeting due to the Jewish holidays. So our next meeting will be October 13th. And we will be having the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to come and speak about the current status of, COVID-19 and the pandemic as the city continues to undertake many initiatives to get many more people vaccinated. And I do want to encourage everyone to try to get the flu shot this upcoming winter. And I do want to encourage you to come to the next meeting to speak to the Department of Health and to bring your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Omar. Jill, do you have any report for the Special Committee on Racial Equity? Jill? We'll circle back.
I'm here.
Good, okay.
I don't really have a report. I've just returned from a very long vacation and haven't really had time to get. Thank you.
That's fine.
I just want to welcome in new members.
Rub it in.
And I haven't had one since maybe 2008, so I'm not rubbing it in. I just want to say welcome to the new members, and I believe our next meeting may be on October the 7th. I'm a little thrown off about the Jewish holidays, and a little confused about what October's calendar is going to look like. But on that note, I just want to wish our Jewish members and neighbors an easy and meaningful fast and a Happy New Year.
Thank you so much.
The only other thing I want to bring up is that at some point, I know that our committee will be interested in knowing about. I read in the executive board meetings minutes that I missed that there is some participation from this community board in terms of the selection of the 50th precinct commanding officer. So I think that would be of interest to the committee, and we can talk about that offline, Laura.
Okay, very, very good. And we'll move on to Special Committee on Veteran Services. If Sergio has.
Good evening. Yes,
Okay.
Good evening all. Welcome to our new members. The Special Committee on Veterans is welcoming you with open arms. If you'd care to come in, we are working with Kiara on our next date, which will probably be in October. And we are looking forward to a meeting with our local council member who's the chair of the Veterans Committee in the City Council. So hopefully we'll have some good momentum locally. Thank you.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. And Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway.
There's nothing to report. We don't have a meeting scheduled yet, but we will be meeting later.
Right. Very good. So we now will move into Executive Committee. Oh no, any discussion on the Executive Committee meeting minutes of September 1st? Okay, then we're going to move into the Executive Committee session. I move that in accordance with Section 105F of the Open Meetings Law, that we move into executive session in order to discuss a staff personnel financial matter. Is there anyone opposed to moving into executive session? Seeing no hands.
Laura, just one comment. It's all fine. I'm just wondering, do we have any other business afterward? Because I believe we'll be asking people to leave the
Yes.
call.
Yeah, no, we have to vote in public, David. So Lisa and I,
Okay,
we
but to
discussed
let
all
them
this.
know that
We have
that's
to
the
come
only-
back out and we have to vote while the public is in, and then we have very fast just approval of the board minutes and we're done. But we decided at this juncture. So let me just finish the vote.
Okay.
Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? So then let us begin. Kira and the staff who are on are going to leave at this juncture, going to make Lisa host.
First, I will assist folks of going into the waiting room if they don't do so
Yes,
on their own. And then I'll leave.
Yes, people who are not board members have to leave during this executive committee session. So that'll take a few minutes.
Do visitors go into a waiting room or leave? Oh, they leave and come back?
Lisa, I'm putting them into the waiting room.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I've ever done the waiting room myself. So if you can just throw me into the waiting room if it's not too much to ask.
Throw me in my bed.
Oh, God.
Ay, ay, ay.
Lisa, will you just help me confirm that I got everyone when you go through the list?
Okay, let me check. Yeah.
Orlando?
Yeah, Orlando needs to leave. Yeah, thank you. Chowdhury? Satina? I think we're good. And I'll have to figure out how to put you in the waiting room.
I'm just gonna leave and then I'll come back. 'Cause it's
Okay, I'll
my
text you.
account. I'm afraid I probably can't go into the waiting room. So I'm just gonna make you co-host.
Okay, and Bob Bender,
You
right?
know how to find you, Kara.
Yeah.
Listen, when we were in exec, we did this conversation just for the board to know. I forgot to tell Kira to come back. We forgot to bring her back. I called her after the meeting.
Okay, we're going to stop the recording so everyone knows. Executive session for those who are just.
I think she's taking comp time right now.
Well, I think we can continue, and I will keep an eye out if. See if-
While we're doing this, we're back into public. We're back in the public, Lisa.
We are. There are only a few people in the waiting room.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's past most people's bedtime.
Past my bedtime,
Yeah,
baby.
we do have a few of the people who are in the waiting room with us now. I don't see anyone waiting.
Kira, are you back?
No, no, and I don't see Tanya, but I think we can continue, right? Should I share screen?
Sure.
We'll have a vote. Let's see. Okay.
Okay, test. It wasn't delivered. Okay. Okay, so having looked at this resolution and all three, you can scroll all three resolutions pertaining to our salary increases. I make a motion that we adopt the resolution, the three resolutions, and do these raises. Is there anyone opposed? So now this is the vote for all three. Is there anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Okay.
Kira's-
We are voting as a package on all three.
There is, I don't know whose hand is raised. Are you a board member?
Whose hand is raised?
There's a phone number.
I know, but
Okay, so we are not going to accept any non-identified questions. Okay, sorry, Laura.
Well, right, if that's not a board member, the hand is just not relevant. Okay, so is there anyone abstaining?
I abstain with cause.
Okay,
I abstain too. It's Camelia.
And
okay,
this was Julie.
okay. We got that, Lisa?
And I abstain as well. It's Constance.
And I abstain. It's Jill.
Wait 1 second. Constance, Jill, Julie Reyes, Camelia. Okay, so that's the abstention. And
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 abstentions.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4
Okay, you
abstentions.
take your hands down.
Yes. Okay, so I want to thank everybody.
Anyone opposed?
I started off with
Oh,
opposed.
sorry about that.
Abstain.
Late.
And so the motions pass, and I want to thank everybody for their time. Now we're going to just quickly, the board minutes of June 8th were distributed. Are there any comments? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay, so the minutes are approved. Miscellaneous business, any miscellaneous business? Okay, so I have completed our agenda. I want to thank everybody and wish everyone a wonderful evening. Okay, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very good. Healthy, happy new year to everybody.
Welcome, new members. We don't go this late usually.
Oh, she's lying, but we're going to work on it.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night and thank you.